Welcome to the 318 Experience, the ultimate podcast for discovering the best of what our community has to offer. I'm Brian Bendily, your host and local realtor, with a passion for showcasing the people, attractions, and hidden treasures of Monroe, West Monroe, and beyond. Okay, today we're here with Brandon Broussard with Blackbird Offroad. So, Brandon, back in 2017, I think is when we first met. You had the house on Ed Edlin that we were selling. Different phase of your life that you were going through, and we were able to make that transition happen. And then we stayed on the hunt for what must have been 4 or 5 years afterwards, trying to find
4 or 5 years,
the right house.
Yeah.
And the thing about going through that process with you, you're working house cycles at that time, right?
Yep.
Going through that process, you knew what you wanted, but you couldn't. You ended up buying something that was completely different than what we started out looking for.
Absolutely.
But when you knew at that point, right?
Yep.
So take me back to in which you're the owner of Blackbird was it Blackbird Offroad now?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Take me back to when so Brandon gets out of high school. What does Brandon do? What's first job?
Oh God. So I graduated a small school in West Monroe, private school, and I believe it was 27 of us, and 26 were going to college. So you can guess who didn't. I never took the ACT. I don't think I did an English term paper. I've never seen a college application. There's nothing wrong or right with that, but I just could not. After 12 years and 3 summers, I was good with not ever seeing another book or a teacher. And I had great people that helped me get through the whole thing. So I failed 8th grade, then failed 9th grade, and then failed 9th grade again. So just being stupid. But when I got out of high school, I think at the graduation ceremony, I was like, I'm just going to be I'm just going to a trash truck business or something. I just did not care. No, I had guidance from my parents, but it was just do what you want to do. It's you don't have to go to school or do anything, And so I said I would never ever be a construction worker. And 3 months later, I'm in South Alabama on a construction job, and that took the next 8 years of my life in industrial scaffolding. Mirrored that somehow, some way, just a weird God thing, but I could care less about teenagers, and ended up just the craziest, weirdest conviction, and then serving teenagers for 8 years in student ministry,
right,
at 3-4 churches. Cross camp, and finally got kind of just tired of that and different deal, and got back into off-road at an aftermarket company, and did that for a while, and then that changed and ended up
at off-road company. Were you dealing more in ATVs, or were you talking about like four-wheel drive?
It was drivetrain components.
Okay.
It was the big company Grill Axle that was out in Monroe. Yeah, it was a monster. And just really, you talk about a dream job, just fun. And got into that, and we raced and did all this stuff, and got paid to blow stuff up and ride it as absolutely hard as you could. And in that, I was doing dealers, racing, marketing, and really anything else. That was at that time of my life, I had made all the all-American stupid decisions, from credit card debt to, buy you a couch and finance it for 4 years or something, and then ended up broke.
Right.
And so.
But you were doing what you loved at that point. You're in the off-road world.
Yes.
It's like right up your alley.
Oh, it couldn't be better. And so left there in 2008 and went to House of Cycles and as general manager, and I was there, just started back in the same thing, and you're around product that you just, everybody wants, a off-road vehicle, a motorcycle,
right. Sportsman's paradise.
Yeah.
Everybody's got to have one. Right?
It's just heaven. So really tried to grab a hold of that and help run it as hard as I could. My boss, Robert, just a phenomenal human being that gave me a shot at that time in life when no one else would. And he did. And that forever changed me, and super grateful for that until the day I die, for sure.
So when you were working for House Cycles, kind of what'd you start out doing, and kind of where did you end up finishing up at?
So it's weird. I went by for an interview, went down to Florida to interview at another dealership, came back, sitting around, and Robert calls me and he's like, "Hey, we're gonna hire you." I was like, "Okay." He said, "Can you be here tomorrow?" I was like, "Yeah." So I show up and I was like, "What am I gonna do, by the way?" And he goes, "You're gonna be my general manager." And I was like, "A general do what?" And so it's like, okay, whatever that takes, I can do that. I can do anything, and I kind of got a super boost of just, I'm gonna make this happen. And so I mean, customers, managing employees, inventory, just going over salespeople and rigging out bikes to be different. They had already kind of started doing that, and then we just really went after it. And eventually, there in 2011, we were the number one Can-Am dealer in the nation, which was just wild to wake up and have done that.
Right.
I did F&I.
But that takes work. I mean, that just didn't happen overnight. Y'all just didn't come in and say,
No.
"Hey, look, we're going to be number one. Let's just hope that everybody comes in and buys bikes from us." If I'm not mistaken, you guys had to get out there and sell the product. You had to go to events and show what the product could actually do and really get people engaged.
Yep.
Or am I thinking about it wrong?
No, that's right. The Can-Am was still kind of new, but you had to, and the side-by-side had landed that year, 2011, and you had to just tell people these are great machines. These are extremely bad at the bone. My racing experience, I could tell them like this is a legit vehicle.
But they started making, I think Can-Am was one of the first that came out and actually started making factory mud bikes where you didn't have to go out and add all these extras on it. It came from the factory that way.
Yep.
Obviously, everybody still wants to accessorize based on that, make it bigger, better, and better.
Yep.
So talk to me during that time. You're rolling good in life. You've all accounts, you're in your sweet spot. You're getting to do what you love, work with things you love to play around with. You love boats too, and you got a mixture of all of that going on. But tell me how life was going for you at that time. How many kids do you have at this time?
So when 2008, I went through a divorce, and we had 3 kids, young kids, and so from that whole new chapter of being at House of Cycles, I was just like, I threw myself into work. I picked up a part-time job in the evenings. Like all I did was just like. Eat, sleep, work is what my therapist told me I needed to do, and I was like, well, I can do some of those, and I would catch like 3 or 4 hours of sleep at night. It's just a weird, heavy time at that, and trying to apply myself through being the general manager.
Sure.
But that was a hard time. It was a hard time, and it's wild how things happen with people. You have this fantastic opportunity at a job, but at the same sense, like anxiety's burning 3 pounds of weight off me a day, and you're going at it with all you can. And I mean, I want to share this. Like I would cry like some sort of pathetic baby on the way to work every day. And about 2 miles from work, slap the living mess out of my face. Yeah. Wake up and be ready to go at it again. Get in my car that evening and cry all the way home. Just a heavy, hard time. And I want to say that to people to know you don't know what tomorrow is, and you could write a book about next year. You know what last year is. Yeah. That's easy to write that book. But seeing what's ahead and being in that moment is extremely tough for people. And where I am now is it's so far from that. I mean,
well, even since I've known you, you're a completely different person than where you are from that. But even before we get to that point, so you have your divorce, you're in a great job, you're doing good, you got 3 kids, you're burying yourself in work. From a financial standpoint, where are you at this time?
Man.
Have you started making say I'm just going to do better, or are you still just like throwing everything down the drain?
No, I fortunately in the state of Louisiana, if you're a guy with a job, it's just the way the system is, so you're not going to have any money if you have to pay child support and stuff, and that's all cool and gone. But no, that was the hinge. Like everything I made had to go towards that,
and everything else just kind of went out the door.
Oh yeah. There was no, man. Fun to me was going to a movie and eating popcorn. That was fun. That was monster highlight. Like an emotional high to just go watch a cool movie and chill and not being chased down by stress and demons and sales and lawyers and stuff. So,
and I can imagine, being a GM that, the economy is what the economy is. You're going to have good months. You're going to have bad months. And, even here locally, when the oil and gas people are working great, I'm sure they're buying a lot more ATVs and other toys than when, nobody's working. So you've got that to contend with.
Oh, always.
So advance a little bit forward. So life starts taking another turn. You end up getting remarried.
Yep. So got remarried in 16, and phenomenal time. We went to the Bahamas and had just a fantastic time. And I would say that there was a foothold, and I don't want to get super spiritual on people, but it is what it is. There was a foothold that like Satan was like, I'm gonna beat the crap out of this guy,
right?
Again, I'm not letting him win, and things happen whether he said, she said, or whatever. But we were married about 7 or 8 months, and I was like, I'm out, and I left, and that was hard, man. That was hard, and it was hard on her, and because I was like, this has happened again. And I had begun, sidetrack. I had begun reading books in 2008, like, why am I an idiot? Like, maybe this $20 book will help, and I was like, I'm definitely an idiot. Like, what have I done? So that happened. You helped us sell the house that was like a monster. I moved into a fifth wheel camper in the woods for 2 years. Literally in the woods. Like, you're going to get red bugs. A mosquito is going to stab you when you walk in your door. And just grinded that and did what I had to do. And really got into reading again. Kind of studying myself and just like, I've got to get a hold on things. I'm an adult. Like this I'm not 20 and an idiot. Like, I'm an adult. I have 3 kids. I have a lot going on here, and that was a ride. So,
what I noticed during that time. So we got to know each other from selling your house, and then after that, you went and lived in the fifth wheel. But we would speak periodically about properties that were coming up because you keep saying, I don't want to live in this fifth wheel for forever. And I started seeing a change, and that change was a lot of internal reflecting, saying that I'm better than this, and that I don't have to have all of these outside forces control me. I don't have to live in a $500,000 home just because that's what I'm supposed to do. Right. I don't have to have all these things because people expect me to have those kind of things. So that change that I saw in you just perked my ears up, and I'm like, he's right. We don't have to have all it. Don't get me wrong. I'm not judging somebody for having those nice things, but to see you during that time that was, I don't know if it's fair for me to say broken, but I mean, there was pieces that were missing, and I got to see all this internal reflection from you. And you would tell me, hey, if you ain't read this book, Brian, you need to get this book. You were doing a ton of reading at that time. There's a lot of self-reflecting. So advancing it to the point to where, so now you're going through this difficult time, you're living out in the woods, you're still at House of Cycles. And had you ever thought during that time or even before that time, I know I've been blessed by these opportunities, but maybe it's time for me to do something myself?
So I had we had done a deal way back called Endeavor, and it was a little T-shirt company I did that was just driven by like every Jesus T-shirt looked like garbage. So I tried to just do something cool. So I'd had a little bit of business ownership 101. Like, one, if you print a T-shirt and make 50 cents on it, you got to print a bunch of T-shirts.
Absolutely.
And I was like, I don't want to do that. That's crazy. That's insane. So as the years progressed with House of Cycles and bikes and me and the kids mud riding and going to all these events and just having a good time, one of my techs, I would talk to him a lot, and I was raised at the drag strip. Like, I was raised like around engines, and there was always some race car in the driveway, and two motorcycles, and so I've been around all this stuff my whole life. And I bought a folded up ZX10, and this kind of goes back a few years, but it was a absolute total, except that the frame was good. And it had a clear title. It was a good machine. It was a repo. It was not a total. It was not salvage. We rebuilt this thing up, and I sold it, and I was able to make some money to pay some legal debt. And that's like the true story. I'm like, I owe my parents some cash, and I got to figure this out.
Yeah.
So that was the beginning. And I was like, wow, that's cool. You can make a few bucks doing something and messing around with it and shine it up, and
when was this?
Was 2009.
Okay.
That was the first.
Were you
one.
at House of Cycles at that point?
I was at House of Cycles, yep. We brought it in, and my tech, Ron, looked at it, and he's like, well, I'll go over and make sure. And I bid $805 for this machine, because I knew everybody else was going to bid $500.
Yeah.
It wasn't, so I got it, and it was literally laying in the bed of a truck, and we drug it out of that truck and drug it into another truck. And this was a machine that about 6 months later, it would do 186 miles an hour. I probably shouldn't say that. Well, I just know it would do 186 miles an hour.
We're just not going to say what road it was on.
Yeah, it was a close course because that's when they shut off, and that really scares you. But that happened. Then I bought a Can-Am that a guy had sunk and tortured and blew up, and fixed it and sold it, and that is a long line of bikes ago, a very, very long line. And the initial deal with that was, I was paying my parents back. And I told them, because we went through all the lawyer junk, and I was like, I will pay y'all back. And so I did that. And then it was cool and it was fun. Like, once I made cross the top of the hill, and I was like, dang, we're going to Olive Garden tonight, and
absolutely.
And so it was wild and fun. And then it just, my skill set started to develop a little bit with a few things on the machines, because you got to look back. Prior to this, I just raced them. They just handed me the wheel, and I wouldn't grab the throttle with my thumb. I would grab it with all four fingers.
Okay. So
I was like, I'm not trusting a thumb. I would just grab it all and hold it wide open, and that was fun. And won a few things doing that. But so back over to being in the camper, and that you discussed that. Part of the reason the camper and all this stuff was this debt load, and I'm like, you know what, this is gonna kill me. Like, yeah, this is what every average American is doing with 4 credit cards and a bunch of debt and all kinds of cool stuff that you lay down on Monday night, and you're like, oh my God, I've got to work 4 more days to break even.
Well, I remember something you telling me. I think it was before the house closed. You had mentioned something that I've got this heaviness that is on my chest that I just can't seem to get off. If I can get this house off of me, it's going to take that pressure. And I think the problem was bigger than that. I think there was more than just that house you were talking about.
Yeah.
But to see you go through that process, and I think the camper probably did you good. You had some peace and quiet.
Yeah.
You didn't have the distractions of life.
No.
You just poured into things.
Yep, I did. It was a rebuilding phase. There was no internet, and didn't want any internet. I watched the guy on LPB that paints the things or whatever, and
Bob Ross.
it was just like literally classic, just do that. And then I actually during that time I rented a little bitty 10 by 10 like not a warehouse, but a 10 by 10 room, a storage room, to put all my tools in that I own, which wasn't many, and I would fiddle around with a bike there. That was my outlet.
Sure.
And I mean, it went from a few to like almost none. I was like, man, I've got to do something. I started running again out there, just through the out Shindy Lake area and everything, and just kind of not being selfish, but just like, I have got to be good for me, because if I'm not good for me, I'm good for nobody. I'm not good for House of Cycles. I'm not good for my kids. I'm not good for, hopefully another woman to give me a shot, and it was a ride, but the thing was the debt, and you and I met because of Dave Ramsey.
Yeah.
Is how we have linked up through the house sale.
Yeah.
And I knew all this. I've known Dave since before Dave. You know what I'm saying? And through church and all that, way years ago when Dave didn't exist, some other dude existed about you need to manage your money.
Mm-hmm.
If you make $1,000, you shouldn't spend all of it.
Right.
That's just common sense, but it seems to be a major problem.
Well,
even today.
Our society, I mean, it's all about you deserve to have all this.
Yep.
We can make an easy payment plan for you.
Yep.
When you sold for House of Cycles, I'll guarantee it probably wasn't necessarily about the dollar amount that it cost. It was probably about the monthly payment.
Yep.
In most cases.
Oh yeah.
It's just the way our economy is designed, and it's sad to say, but on some level we still need people like that to keep our economy running.
Yep.
But it's not a healthy way to continue when you're just overloaded with debt.
Yep.
All right, so now we're advancing, coming in. Life seems to be picking up for you. Things are a little easier. You get a little bit of this debt off of you, but you still don't feel fulfilled. From all aspects I've heard, you did an amazing job with House of Cycles. I think you left them on great terms.
Yeah, it was there. It was part of the reason I left there was just, I think I can do this. I've got to make a giant leap for me and my family. And I made great.
How scary was that? Because I'm sure you were making good money at that time.
Yeah, and you've got security. It's a brick building with product. I've got almost nothing. And I've got to, take care of kids and whatnot. And so, yeah, it was, but I actually read one of Dave's books, Entree Leadership. I had read that book in 2012, and I'd gotten about 3 chapters deep and chunked it across my living room floor.
Why?
Because my business is like, we don't even have a half a dozen employees. We are a small fry, okay? Yeah. Maybe on purpose, maybe whatever. But I couldn't be the manager or boss that I wanted to be with just how things were set up. And I said, I want to do something one day where I can do this. And Friday at 4, we're just going to shut the gate and leave just because, like, that's it. And we actually try to do that now. Mm-hmm. It works like half the time, but it's business. But
you want to try it your way.
I did. I wanted to try it my way. So I finished Entree Leadership September 1st, 2017, reading it in the camper. And I walked in and told my best friend that worked there with me. I said, dude, I'm out. It's over. This run is over. And he's like, you're crazy. And I said, no. So he now runs the place. He's the general manager there. And but I left, and prior to that, about 6 months, there was other things, and this is just full open disclosure. I'd started doing, at night I go home and work. Saturday, if I'm off Saturday at 4, I'd go home and work on something. Sunday, work, just work all the time, 11, 12, midnight.
So you had a little business leading up to this, right?
Yeah.
But not on the scale that you're at right now. So you had a little business leading up to it, but there had to be in your gut kind of pulling both sides that, oh my word, what am I doing?
Yep.
And then that other side's like, heck yeah, we're doing this.
Yep.
Tell me about that battle.
So it was a conflict of interest. Is how I felt. If you're a man and you're honest to yourself and other people, and I said I can't keep doing this. And I said, well, I'll tell you what. Talking to Brandon, I was like, okay, I've got to make X amount of money this month to see, if I can afford to leave. And so I did. And I was like, well, I'll do it one more month.
Yeah.
And I did. I was like, well, maybe just one more month because I got to make sure, Did it again. And I was like, okay, I'm just lying to myself. Like I need to, pull the cord. And so I did that. And
so by this time, did you have your first warehouse? Was it like a 10 by 20 year?
Just a little 10 by 20. The day after I rented out, I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna go bankrupt. I'm just tripped out. And so I would work there. If I got off work, I would go work there. Not to a certain time, to when the job was done.
Right. If
I was washing something, working on something, pulling axles or differentials or motors, whatever it was no cutoff. There were many, 2, 3 a.m. nights. And at this point, the weekends I didn't have the kids or whatever, or one of the kids was already gone to West Texas. It was weird. It was I love to work. I absolutely love to work, even to this day. But there was a have to, but there was that turn the radio on, shut the door, and man, I can get this done. And if I get this done, it's proven this stuff sells, so.
Then I can do another one.
Yeah, then I can do another one. And I did doing that as well. There were so many points when all this went down that I would build up a little nest egg and then something pop up, whether it be, a house that we had to sell or a lawyer I had to pay or whatever, and it'd burn it out. And I'm like, I'm back at square one. So initially I was nabbing American General Finance loans for like a bazillion % interest,
mm-hmm.
and I would pay them back a day before it would hit. And I did that dozens of times because, we're talking like small amounts of money. Like
sure, no, I'm with you.
But I didn't have it. I did not have it. There was no way for me to get it. And
now you still wasn't in that phase when you stopped House of Cycles, were you?
No, I was. I was way past that, but still just didn't have a large amount of money. So it was the hustle. Let's just say I bought something for $5,000. Well, I might only have $10,000, and I have got to get this fixed and ready and get it sold
and make a profit
because I'm out of money.
Yeah,
like I can't put diesel in the truck because I have no money because it's all sitting right there. And so part of what's happened, and part of what Blackbird is I had to. It was a choice, but then again, there was just the fact of the matter. I had to outwork every person I could in my space. If you were doing the same thing I was doing, I was absolutely committed that I'm going to outwork you. I will outrun you. You will not catch me. You could, but you don't have the knowledge base.
So I know that you always had the appearance, and I believe it to be true, that you've always had a great work ethic, no matter what you decide to do. But when you make that leap to working for someone to working for yourself, when I stepped out and left the corporate world and where I had that salary went to 100% commission, I was scared to death for the first couple of months because I'm like, I don't have anybody telling me it's time to wake up. I don't have anybody telling me I got to punch a clock by this time. But I found really quickly that I am tougher on myself than any boss could ever be on me.
Yep.
It's liberating to the fact that I know that my efforts today will provide fruit down the road. That if that fruit doesn't come, I got nobody to blame but myself.
Right.
So, being an entrepreneur, having my own business, to me is very rewarding. It's very fulfilling. To some people, it scares them to death.
Mm-hmm.
And to those people, what would you say?
So, like, in my 20s, I was like, I just want to work for somebody. I want to work for somebody. There's no way I could own a business. What do you do with taxes? I don't know. Like, how did that guy buy that company truck? Like, so I was just completely scared to death of that. man, if you, I mean, I don't know whose quote it is, but if you think you can, you must.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got to. I would absolutely jump out there and go after whatever your passion is, but you need to prove it. And you don't go buy a new truck, and you don't go buy a new computer, and you don't go buy a new suit. You just go with what you got.
Yeah. You put the right foot in front of the left foot, and you take one step at a time.
Yeah.
I see people too many times that will say, well, I'm just going to wait. I've got to acquire this, and this before I do. I'm like, no, you don't have to.
Yep.
You just go and do until you have the money that you can invest in this, and then you can do a little bit more.
Right.
So you left House of Cycles. You started building. Where did Blackbird Offroad come from?
So that's it's it kind of has to do with the conflict of interest with like 4 different things. We'll call them things, but I couldn't be seen, but I needed to be seen.
Yeah.
I needed to be known, and I'm like, I can't sell. I have customers walk in to the House of Cycles. I can't sell them my stuff.
Right.
I'm not, I'd walk out, my car catch on fire or something.
Mm-hmm.
I just can't do that. So,
but at House of Cycles, I mean, their business model, they're selling new stuff.
yeah, it's brand new. That's right.
Brand new stuff. Although I'm sure occasionally they would have something used,
Yep.
get a good trade,
Yep.
and maybe do something. So you wasn't like directly competing with them, taking business from them.
Right. No.
But at the same time, that guy that's coming in looking for a brand new bike, like, yeah, I got one back to the shop
Right.
that's pretty close to this for a lot of money.
Yep. No, so I had to. I couldn't be known, but I had to be known, and so that was when Craigslist was big. So I would, list on Craigslist, and I think it's completely default now. But the Blackbird. So I'm at a concert in Baton Rouge for the Bayou Country Superfest, and I was actually with Jen there, and we're hanging out, and Keith Urban sings a song talking about a blackbird, and then some airplanes had just flew over. And then the most ginormous amount of blackbirds I've ever seen in my life flew across the stadium. And like, I don't know, I don't remember this. I don't know how or why or when I've ever heard of the SR-71 spy plane. But, I got home that weekend, and I started searching it, and I'm like, who in the world in the 60s said, let's build a plane that they might see it on the radar, but it will just outrun the radar. And I was like, that's it. It's Blackbird. And I told Jen, and she's like, you're crazy. I was like, okay, whatever. So that's Blackbird. You can't tell one Blackbird from the next. And it's kind of a play on words, but it's also the SR-71. I've probably watched all 1,000 YouTubes of the plane and the build of it, and that thing kind of fits me, like it's and the business model, like we're gonna go and we're gonna go really, really hard.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the story of Blackbird and how that came about.
So we've left House of Cycles. You still working out of this little small garage.
Yep.
You said, I got my foot mashed on the gas, and I'm going to do it, and I'm going to do it my way.
Yep.
It doesn't matter what kind of business you're in. If you're not building relationships through the process, you're not going to go anywhere with it. I mean, your days are going to be numbered.
Yep.
So you started, in which I just thought it was just ingenious. So you have the knowledge base from the dealership side. You've got these people that want to come in and buy the brand, have the latest, the greatest stuff, but not always have the money. And a lot of times they want to try to trade things in to get it. And you're thinking, well, shoot, if they're doing that here, they got to be doing it other places.
Yep.
So not only were you looking for used bikes here that you could take and buy, detail them out. I mean, every bike that you push out, I don't care how many miles it's got on, it looks like it's brand new. Yeah. So tell me a little bit about that, how you got started. Said, look, I can think bigger than just Ouachita Parish.
Yep. So the day I left, the next day, I went to the closest dealerships in Louisiana and talked to them and picked up most all of them. Because, I mean, yeah, I was going out on I at that time I was buying the bikes off Craigslist and Facebook and refurbing them and selling them. And I'm like, I'm going to need way more than this. I mean, we'll be living in the camper a long time, and so I start going to those dealers, and then I go out of state, north, south, east, west. And then there was also during that time, I had a friend of mine that bought from me in Kentucky, and just because of the nature, I would deadhead to Kentucky and back. So it's 1,200 miles, and I'd drive 600 there, unload, and drive 600 straight back. So it's about a 21 hour trip. And I remember the last time coming, I don't even remember coming from Vicksburg to Monroe. I mean, it's just flat and straight. And I said, well, that's enough of that. I could probably afford a hotel by now. So I started overnighting up there. But because the markets are different everywhere. A house here is worth a way more in Colorado, whatever,
Sure.
So that we had that relationship. So as I started building that and getting more clients and more dealers, and then other buddies, hey man, I sell products across Arkansas. You need to call these guys. This is another dealer up here, and I'm friends with them, and I recommended you. Holler at them. So hollered at them, and then that just keeps building. And so it grew enough to where I'm like, okay, we
bigger space.
Yeah, we need more space. So we were working in that little shop, and I mean, it was some shops that we rented out. It's just one shop and one door and one bathroom and an office with an air conditioner in the desk. So we're all eating lunch on my desk with a mini fridge. I mean, it's like the Kenny Rogers six-pack movie or something. It's just like,
now when you say we are doing this, you're working with your kids. You're working with family.
Yeah. So at that time, I'd say about that time, my oldest son Jacob had came back from West Texas. He started working for me, just already burned out of that just wide open life out there. And my youngest son graduated a month after that, and he started working for me. And then about 2 years later, my daughter started working for me. So currently it's just my oldest son and my daughter working for me.
Right.
But as we did all that, I mean, family's family, but like, hey man, did you eat my burrito? You know, like it was a tight thing. And so I got with Jennifer just looking for commercial space. Mm-hmm. I'm like, well, we could buy something in West Monroe and pay for it for the next 900 years. And I couldn't find anything. And she messaged me one morning on our current building and says, hey, this is up. I was like, yeah, I'd asked Brian about that a year ago. I don't know if you remember that.
Mm-mm.
I had asked you about 8570, and you're like, I don't know.
I think at that time they were not. It was two buildings.
Yep.
They wanted to sell it all together.
Yep.
They wasn't willing to separate it at that point. But when you bought it, they had separated the two buildings,
Yep.
right? Separated the property.
Two different properties. So
and so how big is? So you start off with 10 by 10, 10 by 20. How many square feet you got now?
So we've got a 4,000 square foot warehouse and 2,400 square foot office spaces, and there's a little warehouse in it. And when we got out there, I was like, we'll never, ever. I don't even know what to do in here. We could throw football. We could throw pitch.
We're never gonna fill this thing
We'll
up.
never fill this up. When we left Friday afternoon, the warehouse is slammed full. The office space, we started using on that, so utilizing that, I got into some parts, and so we're doing some aftermarket parts as well now, eBay sales, stuff I just never would have dreamed that we could do, and for the business side of people, your mailbox money, I mean, and that's how we see it. Like we're using also what we sell.
Sure.
So the prop shaft that we shipped you, we just stabbed it in another bike, so we know it works. And it's like a win-win for us to just like think a little more outside the box, so yeah, we've fully even through a fire. So we moved out there and had a fire 5 months later. The whole front office thing just went up and basically destroyed it. And so
at that point when that happened, we're talking a little bit, and you didn't have the coverage that you thought you had.
Yep. No contents coverage at all.
for some people, that would have put them in a mental state of, I quit.
Yep.
I mean, I've lost this. I quit. You
Yep.
know, it's just not going to work. Life's too tough, and now what? But you didn't take that,
Man,
role.
you know, I used to, when I used to speak with students and stuff, and this isn't scriptural, but you know, it says, you know, punch a man on this cheek and then turn the other cheek. And I'm like, well, if he punches you in that cheek, now you get to punch back.
Right.
You know, so that's my deal. But man, if these cats, whether it's Instagram, Facebook, or YouTube, or whatever, man, if they've never had a problem and life's all glorious, they're either lying or they just don't do enough business.
Yeah.
Things are gonna happen. We have stuff happen, and I mean, yeah, I may get upset or whatever, but when that happened, I was just like, okay, thank God. So it burned up 4 units in the front little warehouse. But if it had burned up the rear warehouse where everything is, including boats and everything, it would have been really tough. So I looked at it like that.
Sure.
Hey, we only lost 25 or 30 grand. We're coming back to work tomorrow.
Yeah.
And we did. We came back to work, and we didn't have no power. We had to figure out the water. We ran on a generator for 4 days. I mean, and it was.
But you had a choice. Either I'm gonna sit there and cry about it, or I'm gonna do something about it.
Yep.
And crying's not gonna get the bills paid, make anything happen.
No.
So backing up a little bit, your business off ground, it's running. 2020 COVID hits, and I know it seems like some of these videos keep referring back to COVID, but it's very relevant in our, you know, what we're doing today has a lot of still effect of what happened way back when COVID actually come in, the lockdown.
Yep.
So from your standpoint, supply chain really affected.
Yes.
Supply chain got affected for the new bikes. You just couldn't get them coming in.
Yep.
Even if they were coming in, they were in a warehouse because people couldn't deliver them. Whatever the case happened, bike shortage went just stopped.
Yep.
Couldn't get anything in. Well, you can't get a brand new bike. People are at home and they don't want to stay at the house, and you can't go to a shopping center, but you can get out in the woods and go play and have a good time.
Yep.
So the demand was still there, and I would say some people argue the demand actually increased for off-road vehicles at that point. So I would say that your business, I don't know if exploded is the right word, but it definitely increased substantially, didn't it?
It ramped up hard and fast, as well as everyone's off-road business. If they had any inclination and any common sense, you had to embrace that, you know, which we did all the protocol and all that stuff, but it was like, don't come here, like, here's what it is. You don't come here to waste our time because we don't know if you have it, and we were all scared a little bit. We had the talk on March 15th. I was like, I don't know what this is. I don't know what's going on. We will work. We will pay the bills. If we break even, that's what we're going to do. Like, that's just what we're going to do. So it was about 10 days of nada. I mean, like, people scared. I think people holding on to money.
Mm-hmm.
In every market, including myself, just like, you know. So we did for March that year. We sold a few at the end, and it just kind of broke even. And I was like, okay, well, we got next month. So by the 3rd of April the 3rd, which coincidentally today's April the 3rd, we had sold almost everything we had our hands on, including stuff that's like the wheels are falling off. And I'm like, sir, I can't say that. I'm gonna fix it, son. I don't care. And I was like, okay. The world literally changed overnight to, we can't go to the movies, like you said. You can't do this, and this. Can't go to the mall, but we can go outside. Yeah. I mean, fishing rods went out of stock at places. Mm-hmm. So we saw that, and I know a lot of the people that I'm in business with. I mean, we're like, we gotta get on it. Like, it was, and a lot of the guys on the inside, it was a once in a lifetime thing. It was crazy. My business was growing and we were doing good. It wasn't like we grew 500% or anything, but we did really good. We got into boats. That's when I fell in love with boats, because the same thing. You can't go do anything. You can't even go to Little Johnny's baseball game without wearing like a full rubber suit or something. So boats. And so my passion for mud racing and trail riding and all of that is now like I love boats. I mean, I'm just, you know, we went to Cabo 2 years ago, and I just sat there and stare at them, and these I mean, $100 to $100 million, just amazing things. But so weird, and I think I know people lost their business through that stuff. A lot of the restaurant industry, a lot of local stuff, and I hate that. And some of that, there was nothing they could do. They got
raw into the stick.
They got bad. I mean, just hands tied up and just throw them in the water, and it's just horrible. But sometimes you just got to look at that bad and try to do what you can do to make it good. And that's what we did. We even sold lawnmowers when you shouldn't. They couldn't go to Lowe's and buy a mower for a minute, so they bought mowers from us. Yeah, like, you know, it's just wild. But the COVID thing was it was a trip for everybody. We're kind of glad that I think we're maybe over that hump.
Sure.
But yeah, that was a learning experience, and really dropped the throttle to getting this bike refreshed, ready, and gone. Because it's going to sell immediately. We were selling them immediately. You know,
one of the things that I like about your advertising, I would say that most of your advertising is on Facebook now.
Yep.
It's kind of comical how you put things out there, but you give great description of what you're selling.
Yep.
You know, you really don't know what this bike has been through because you don't know the guy that was riding it.
No.
But you had it in your shop long enough to know this is how I feel about this bike. This is going to be a paw. It's got a lot of high mileage on it, but look, drove out to the mailbox, every day to pick up some mail and parked it back underneath the carport and never had a speck of mud on it.
Yep.
I mean, you run across that kind of stuff, but I mean, I think you give a great description of what you have to offer. But the thing I love about it, and I want people to understand, is that if you have a passion for something, you can make money at it. You can make a living at it. I feel we have a generation that's coming up behind us that is scared to take that next step. Now, what would you have to say to that 18-year-old that's graduating, or the person that maybe just decide, I'd graduate, I'm going to go to the military, I get out, and I need to figure out what to do?
Man, I think this is going to sound weird, but I went on a cruise by myself 2020. I got off the boat March 7th. I think everybody needs to do something like that as a single person, as a whether it's business or whatever you want to do. But you need to go somewhere by your dang self, somewhere big and nice and pretty, and see just how big the world is compared to Monroe, Louisiana. I don't care if you just go to a weekend ball game trip at Ranger Stadium or something to see, do you really want to do what you think you want to do for the next 40 years, occupation-wise? So that guy or girl that's graduating high school needs to read a couple of the $20 books that I've read.
Yeah.
I really believe in that. Both of my boys have read at least half of the books that I've read. Whether it takes or not, I think they've used a lot of it.
Do you think we need to start teaching kids what real success is? I think they have a false narrative sometimes that says that you've got to be at this status level, or you have to obtain all of this stuff so you can show people at your 10-year reunion, your 20-year reunion, I'm successful.
Yep.
But I think if we do a better job of redefining what success really is, success is not about stuff. Maybe for some people it is.
Yep.
And give them the tools they need. Something you mentioned earlier that, when you get into this, I mean, you didn't know anything business, how to where you get the money from, how the money flows, any of that stuff. I think we, as a society, need to do a better job in high school teaching kids how to balance a checkbook.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you look at a set of financials just so you know that just because I pay this for it and I spent this for it doesn't mean the rest of it's profit. We still got to pay Uncle Sam. We got other people that's going to want money. But more than that is I wanted people to hear that there is hope. If you are passionate about something and willing to actually put yourself out there, you can do what you love and make a good living at it.
Yep.
I think you make a fantastic living at it. And we won't get into your financial business, but I mean, I can see what goes out, and you are way happier today than the day I met you.
Yep. And I think that picture of success, and I can see it in my son Jacob's eyes when we complete something at the shop. The sense of completion. We didn't sell this vehicle just then, but we got her on the ground and she's good to go. And you get a sense of completion, whereas they're speaking into again the content creators and YouTubers and all this. Like, what are you doing? Like when you mow a yard, you feel a sense of completion. Like you did something and you should be proud of it. I think kids need to see that. And just 'cause you graduate high school or college and you get a new car and you buy a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, and it's cool. I've been there 1,000 times, like to finance all of that. But the sense of completion to write a check for something, whether it be a house or car, truck, or just take your mom and dad out to supper and to be able to pay for their supper and don't have a worry in the world how much it costs, and you go home because you worked your butt off.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody this freeloading status stuff and all that stuff, it if it doesn't dry up, you will. Yeah. You're just gonna rot and die, and your vision, your goals, your dreams. Like, I mean, my goals tell me what to do every single day, and it's really easy for me. Get the heck up and go. Mm-hmm. It's not like a question. I love Mondays. I absolutely love Mondays. It's it's the first day of the week. I wish we had like 3 of them. Like kids need the passion, and I don't know if they have it. That they are so impressed with a new iPhone and stuff, and I see that, or they're impressed smoking dope or vapes or whatever they do. I don't understand sometimes, because like, man, life's really it seems short, but it's a long ride. Like, there's a lot that can happen, and you do need passion and
a lot you can take advantage of as well.
Yes.
Now, we still need the people that want to work the 9-to-5 job, that still wants the 3-bedroom, 2-bath house, and there's nothing wrong with that. Yep. But I want some of these the kids to understand that if you're truly passionate about something, you can do what you love and make a living at it if you're willing to put the effort into making it happen.
Yep.
With just about anything.
With just about anything. There's that's one part of what we've done is out. I feel like I've outworked a lot of people in my space, and there's probably room in the space for other people to do it. But you always say, well, I can't mow yards or be an air conditioner guy because there's already too many. No, you just need to be better than that other one. That's what you need to do. And,
absolutely.
And if you'll just take that, like, man, I don't know what. My brother's a contractor. I don't know what it is with any contractor, but if your watch says 8 o'clock, theirs doesn't, and they show up not on time.
That's correct.
If you want to do a trade or something and show up on time, for me, because my time's expensive and important, a lot of these kids, if they just do that, man, like, dude, you can start a roofing business tomorrow just because you started on time.
You know, my oldest, she's in at ULM now. She's in marketing, and I'm stinking proud of what she's accomplished so far. But she's at that stage to where I'm just trying to figure out what's next. Yep. She's not graduating next month, and I'm telling her, look, you just take it in. You be this kid as long as you can be.
Yep.
And when it's time to figure out what's what, you're going to figure it out, because it ain't hard to outwork that next person. Mm-mm. If you show up, you make good eye contact, and you let them know that I'm here to work, you're going to be able to get the job that you really want. Yep. If that's what you want. It doesn't take much, but you do have to show up.
You've got to show up.
You got to put the work into it. And I just sitting back watching you, I wanted to have this conversation, because I think there's a lot to learn. it didn't come easy for you. You've got a great business right now, but it didn't happen overnight. You had to put the sweat in to make it happen. You had a lot of bumps and bruises along the road that led you to this part. Had you started this out 20 years earlier, 10 years earlier, you may not have had these experiences, because these experiences made you who you are. Although I'm sure a lot of them were painful, but we can also see some of those painful experiences come back and start filling your life full of joy too, right?
Yeah, that's right.
But I mean, it's been impressive to kind of watch you grow this business, and especially because you came from a sense of security where you were at. It's what we've all kind of been taught. I mean, you get a good paying job,
Yep.
you pay your bills, you live your life, everything's going to be great.
Yep.
Sometimes there just needs to be a little more.
It just needs a little more, and we all need a little push sometimes. It's one thing I want to say is, if people, if you have a bad habit, or like, let's just say you smoke, or you have a horrible habit of being late. Well, that's good, because that means you have a habit. If you could turn that habit to good, because evidently you know how to have a habit.
Right.
So just turn it to good, and embrace that and use it. So get there earlier. One thing I did in the camper and renting the little building was I read John Acuff's book, Quitter. And the first sentence says, "Don't quit your day job." And I'm like, great. There went $20. I want to burn this. And later in the book, he's like, you can do a few things. Getting up early is free.
Yeah.
Now, there's probably a lot of ladies that one I know very, very well that think that's crazy, because 12 noon is a good time to wake up, but to get up early, and I did. So I got up. That was one of the things that launched me reading again and learning, and really and that was before going to work at House of Cycle. So I would get up in the camper, go to work at the shop, sit there and read, if you call that work, and then go to work.
Yeah.
Just reading, and anyone that's known me for 20 or so years would never even think Broussard read a book. I mean, why would he read books? Look at him, so. But for me, every time I would read one and take a little piece, The Pathway to the Seas, about the Panama Canal. These guys didn't have DeWalt impact wrenches.
Right.
Are you kidding me? Me and Jacob were discussing this. It'd be like the guy down there that needed a DeWalt or a flashlight, and he hollers, 4,000 feet up at somebody through the chain gang. And what? They built a canal 100 and something years ago.
They made it happen.
We can do a lot these days.
We can.
The young people, and if we need to close up, we can. But the young people, and I learned this, and it hadn't been very long ago. These phones that we have in our hand, dude, that is a tool. Mm-hmm. There is so much you can do with that. I have bought bikes on cruise ships in the Caribbean, in Cabo, laying under a bike. I've bought a bike. You can communicate with it. Mm-hmm. You don't have to be on the Snapchat and playing TikTok or whatever they do with that stuff. I don't, or the what's a little bubble game? I don't know. I don't have a game on my phone. I don't even know what you do with that. I'm always looking at deals and buy and sell, and but I go to Cabo so I can unplug.
Sure.
I don't, and no one does that. The deserving people that, I deserve a vacation, I deserve a new car. No, you don't deserve jack squat. You really don't. You're lucky that we get air to breathe. I mean, that's a godsend. And I want to say one more thing. People say, and I'm so far from where I want to be. It's amazing. But we got food in the fridge. Okay, we're getting there. Self-made men or self-made person. No. God gives you, and I have to remind myself of this, God gives you health. And if you don't have that, if it's disease or cancer and you don't have life, then you can't do anything.
100% correct.
So that's self-made. It's a God-made, it's a God-given thing. You can believe in whatever you want to, but God's who I believe in. So, but to have that force and power behind you, I mean, that's unstoppable.
But the thing of it is, whether people are believers or not, it's It's that free gift that's in all of us. And we have to make that choice to choose to act upon it,
Yep.
choose to have that relationship, choose to believe, choose to have that faith. Our community is built on the back of small businesses, and your business, has grown and has contributed to our economy. And just like you got through saying that you're far from where you want to be, I'm sure that encompasses your business, your faith, your family, and the people around you. Brandon, thank you for taking the time to come talk with us. And I appreciate just the knowledge that you've given us today.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.